It's Amber Viola, and welcome to another episode of Politics But Make It Fashion. Come interview with me. This week, I have the pleasure of having a very old friend on who I know you guys have heard myself and Chelsea talk about being in Bible college. We went to a place called Master's Commission, it was in Illinois. Some would say it is like a cult. Those sums are me. And, others would say it's a discipleship program that is designed to bring you closer to God and to build a closer relationship. There's a lot of rules and regulations in place while you are there. So today I wanted to talk to my friend Amanda about her experience and kind of what brought her to Master's Commission, how it went, and how she left, and kind of how things turned out afterwards. So thank you so much, Amanda, for joining me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. This is awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when we first got on here, you started telling me what your Roman Empire is. And
Yeah.
so I want to hear this for those of you who have TikTok, and then for those of you who do not have TikTok. There was women who were asking men if they think about the Roman Empire. And like 98% of white men thought
Yeah.
about the Roman Empire like at
All the
least
time.
once a week,
I
you
actually
know?
made actually I made a TikTok about my boyfriend and it got like over 1,000 views, like one of the like highest views because like I don't
Oh
really
my
post on there.
goodness.
And I was just like, hey babe, like how often do you think about the Roman Empire? He had no idea I was recording and he was like, yeah, I think about it at least like once a week. He's like, we were literally just talking about it 5 minutes ago. And I'm like, how? He's like, we were talking about having a Caesar salad. He's like, that's from the Roman
What?
Empire. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this is like insane.
It
So,
is insane.
but yeah, so yeah, I made a TikTok about that. And he has like the most views on it, and it's really funny. But yeah, my Roman Empire would be masters for sure was this Bible college that we went to. And the way I think about it is I go back and forth between it being a waste of my time and something really good that came out of it because one, I met you, I met Chelsea, I met so many other people from just different backgrounds, different cultures. We were able to travel. I never would have done so many of the different things that I did. I mean, we went down to, New Orleans to help out with
Yeah.
Hurricane Katrina. Like, how many people can say that they actually did that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like,
That was I think that's probably one of the best things I've ever done in my life.
facts. And
So
I
we
think,
went down 2 years in a row.
yeah.
First
Oh,
year we went for Hurricane Katrina,
hmm.
and the second year we went down and did Rita and Katrina
Oh, because
relief.
you were a
So
second year.
yeah.
Yeah.
So when we went down there, like we we took buses from Illinois.
Hmm.
Didn't know I could get car sick until then.
Oh no.
That was a very long drive, but we took
Yeah.
vans down there,
Hmm.
and we were down there for a couple weeks. They broke us up into teams, and you went and were in different places. And some people
Yeah.
were, say, serving in a soup kitchen.
Yeah.
Some people were gutting out houses.
Yeah. So
What were you doing?
we were gutting out houses. So
Yeah.
we had to be fully masked up. Um, we were walking into houses, gutting them out, cleaning them, talking to survivors, walking around and seeing like, do you remember like those big like red X's that told you
Yeah.
like how many people lived in this house, how many pets, how many survived, how many didn't? Um,
If they
it
found
was,
bodies in
yeah,
there,
it
and
was
yeah.
such an eye-opening experience, especially at the age that we were. We were only 18, 19 years old when this happened. And to witness something so like insane at this caliber at that
Bro,
age,
I will never forget
never in my
Kanye
life.
West saying George Bush doesn't care about black people. I think that lives
Mm,
rent free in my head.
yeah,
That
yeah.
was a
It
time,
was it
man.
was just so bizarre. I remember walking by and I remember our tour guide, we had like one day off and they asked us, what do you want to do? Do you want to go into, the communities and talk, or do you want to actually see what they went through? And we all collectively were like, we want to see. And they were like, I'm letting you know, like, I think you should have like a prayer session before because it's rough.
Yeah.
So you need to prepare yourself for sure. And we did. And, we kind of prayed before we went, and we went down, and there was a car in a tree. There was a house on top of another house. I mean, the images are just rent free in my head, and
I
I will
remember seeing
never.
like oil tanker on
Yeah.
like in the inland,
Yeah.
inland, like on the side of the road.
Yeah. Do you remember meeting back up at Walmart where we had that giant thing where like people can come and get like food or clothes or
Yeah,
whatever, and like you
yeah,
could see the water levels
yeah,
at the Walmart, like where it went up to? Like it was just such an eye-opening experience.
yeah.
I
Gutting out
definitely was
people's
changed.
houses.
Yeah, I was definitely
You're
changed
throwing away all their stuff.
1000%. And
Yeah.
even to this day, even, that happened when I was what, like 18, 19, 20 years old. Even to this day, as a 36-year-old woman, I still struggle. Life is so crazy right now. It's hard to live. People are like, how are we affording life right now?
We're
And
not.
even to the yeah, we're not. And even to this day, I just think back at like it could be worse.
Yeah,
People could be gutting out my house, and I could literally be completely and utterly homeless. And, I always think back to that, and it's like I just need to shut up, and I need to be thankful for what I have now and what
right.
I work for, because it was such a crazy eye opener for me.
And
But
that was like the first thing that we did
yeah,
when
when
we
we got
came
there.
in.
Hmm.
Right. So what were you doing before you went, and how did you end up there?
At Masters.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think back now, I went for all the wrong reasons. I really did, and it sucks. But my backstory is, so my mom was a die-hard Christian. She was Presbyterian, and then she switched over to Christianity. I was born in the church. I was in Christian school from kindergarten to 10th grade. My parents shoved me in the church. I basically lived there from Wednesday to Sunday.
Yeah.
And, I did everything from drama club to the worship team to the youth center to the kids church. I did, kids camp and adult camp and youth camp and all these different things. I think my mom was just scared I was gonna, end up living on the streets, and we didn't really live in like a good neighborhood. So she was just like, if I can just like slap the Bible in her, she won't end up
Yeah.
a bad seed. So we had these people in our church, and I will never forget them. They were very like popular, like, like the people that you just know in church or anywhere you go. That's just like those are those people. And they constantly talked about master's commission. It was just the thing that everyone talked about. And their
Hmm.
oldest son went to master's in Illinois, and he ranted and raved about it for years and years and years, to the point where our own pastor, like our own youth pastor, would talk about it. We even had a master, like a mini master's thing at our church. For it was like a weekend or like a week during the summer where people from masters from all over would kind of come and host at our church. They would tell us about it. We would do little classes like we had, just to kind of experience what masters was like, um, which was really cool. And so, cut to 18 years old, that was something that I really wanted to do. Well, July of me being 18 years old, just turned 18, July, my mom had passed away. And my
Yeah.
mother was my life. She was my best friend. She was my everything. I didn't know what to do.
Shit. And then you went in September?
Yep.
Oh my
She
God.
died in July, and I went in September.
Girl,
And
I did
I
not know it
left.
was that
Yeah,
close
I
together.
I had left everything. I
Jeez.
rebelled so bad. I got tattoos. I got piercings. My hair was red. You know
Your
what I
hair
mean?
was a red
Do you remember
girl.
that? Yeah,
Yes,
it was
I
fire engine
do.
red. And I was anorexic. No one also knew that either.
Wow.
I was very
There
thin.
was a lot of people in masters who were dealing with
So
eating
much.
disorders. One of my roommates was bulimic very severely
Who?
during that time, and I had never been around anything like that, and I wasn't equipped to handle it, and neither was anybody at masters. But
Oh gosh.
that's definitely a correlation somewhere in there because there's a lot of people battling that.
Yeah, like it was crazy. but yeah, so and then I just remember not knowing what to do with my life. And the people that I was talking about in church that were like those like popular people and her son had went, he would always talk about this thing called Halloween Horror Nights that masters would do. And it was like this extreme thing where they would have like it was kind of like a haunted house that you would walk through, but like
The Hell
different.
House.
Yeah, the Hell House. They would
Yeah.
have like a car crash or like a domestic violence or someone going through an abortion or just like, a drug addict. And then at the very end of it, they would have like a little like sermon and speech and
Yeah.
stuff
They've
like
talked
that. So,
about that on
yeah,
TikTok. I've seen people who weren't in
really?
masters, yeah, who weren't in masters but who went to that or who worked at them and
No
different things.
way. Get out.
Well, for a lot of people, it was really traumatizing.
Yeah, and that was the point of it, that they were
Yeah,
traumatizing
yeah,
people to get closer to God. And I solely went to Master's Commission because of that. I was so in love with like I'm such like a Halloween girly. I love
yes,
I
yeah,
worked at Halloween haunted houses for years and I went solely on that. And of course, doing something for God for all the wrong reasons bite me right back in the ass. The year I went was the year they stopped
they,
doing it. And I was like, you've got to be effing kidding me right now. Are you for fucking real? And I was so mad. I was bitter, but I was like, well, I'm here. Let's just make the most of it. And that's what brought me to Masters was
yeah,
the Hell House or Halloween Horrors or whatever it was. And yeah. But then I got to meet all of the people that I know now, and it's
yeah.
wild.
So how did you find it there? Like, so for me, when I was there, I really didn't feel like I tried to like how do I say that? People did not like me.
Really?
I think there was a big cultural issue with
Well, one, it
these.
wasn't diverse at all.
It was less than diverse.
I think you were like the only black person there. I think I was one of two Hispanic women there.
And I felt like there was definitely a lot of microaggressions and a
Yes.
lot of just cultural differences
Mm-hmm.
between us and the people who are in the Midwest. So like it was hard on me from the start. Like
That's so
I
bizarre that you
yeah,
say that because I thought you blended in so well with everyone. I thought everyone loved you. And I almost like envied you in a way. Like me and you, we kind of like hit it off really well with like me, you, Ashley, and Chelsea. But like at the same time, I was almost like very envious of you. And I was like, oh, she's so popular. Like she's so pretty. Everyone loves her. The boys love her. And I'm like, I got to be this girl's friend. Like I really do. Like I don't know why I'm not her friend. I need to be her
that's
bestie.
so funny.
Yeah.
Well, because people thought that we had already known each other.
Yeah. We were
And
just from Jersey.
yeah, 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 and we were minorities. So it's like, oh my
Yeah.
God. So people thought right off the bat we were like these best friends, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
I don't know her. Like I don't
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know who she is at all from a can of paint. Like, I just like her energy.
I was like, I don't, yeah, we're from the same place. So obviously we're going to
Yeah.
vibe kind of the similar, but
Yeah. But for me going, again, I was dealing with the death of my mom. I was dealing with leaving everything behind, not knowing how I was going to pay for anything,
yeah.
not knowing who I was as a woman, someone coming into her own as a teenager, a young woman, and going into it, I was I came from a bullied background. So I was very bullied. And I was like, I'm going to do everything I can to make as many friends and to be open and honest with everybody and to just show them who I really am as a person. And then
How'd that
uh,
go?
it didn't.
Yeah.
We were bullied. We
Oh,
like, do you not remember them bringing me, you, and Ashley into the office being like, you guys can't be friends anymore? And
yes. And I
you
was
guys
so
have like
confused because I
resting,
was
yeah.
like, what?
And they're like, you guys have resting bitch face. You're not allowed to stand there with your hands folded. I'm like, what is happening? Like, what is really like, what is the beef? Like, do you not like us
So
because
one
we
of the
were
things that,
minorities? Like, what?
right. So a lot of us stood with our arms crossed, and that was a way that I stood my whole
My
life.
whole
Like
life.
I remember seeing my older brother play football and being able to find him on a football field because he stood with his arms crossed.
Yes.
And they took that as you're closed off. You don't,
Mhm.
you hate God,
Disrespectful.
you hate everybody, you're
Yeah.
disrespectful. And I had never heard that
Yeah.
before,
Never.
and I was like, what? Because I have my arms crossed. Like, where am I supposed to put my arms?
Yeah.
Just hanging down at the side?
Right. And I'm
We're
like, that's
standing for
weird.
9 hours? Like,
Like if I stand with my arms down by my side, like my fingers get tingly. Like that's just like weird.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So I felt like we were very much bullied. It was very segregational, I felt like. It was very clicky.
Mm.
Now, looking back, I am a huge, huge advocate. I'm sure you've seen my posts on everything for the LGBTQ. And I truly think that they knew that Ashley was a lesbian and they just did not want us around her.
Oh, they did. Well, they thought you were a
1000%.
lesbian too.
Yeah.
And
Well, here's the
I
thing.
don't know if
I
they thought
played in
I
the
was a
minors. I never
lesbian.
went pro. Yeah, right. So like for me, and I don't know how you took. I didn't even know what lesbian was. I think I was so brainwashed. I was so secluded from the secular world because my parents were so scared that I was going to end up in the streets. I didn't know what a lesbian was. I didn't know what a gay person was. I was so sheltered and so blithely unaware of the world around me.
Well, because you have this idea of like homosexuality coming into it being this very wild,
Yeah,
crazy thing, and not
absolutely.
just like maybe people just having a normal, regular, smegular relationship with, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
And so you might not just know pure like, yeah, gay people can just like hang out and not
Yeah.
be banging
I,
next to you. Because I promise you, they told us all the time like gay people were just here having sex and
yeah. And
debauchery
yeah. And
on
you're
the
going to
streets.
hell. Like if you're
Yeah.
friends with them, you're going to hell. If you're a gay or lesbian or whatever, you're going to hell. If you are in a relationship with someone and you have sex before marriage, you're going to hell. It was like, it was embedded in my head that everything that wasn't of God or in a godly nature, you're going to hell. And I think we were just, well, I don't want to say we, but me, I was just so brainwashed into these things that I was so unaware of my
Yeah. Because they
surroundings.
thought that you were a lesbian.
Yeah, and I had no
And
idea. I had no idea, none
and I said,
whatsoever.
I was like, I really don't think she's gay. I maybe you should talk to her.
And they
Or
never did. They never did.
wait, you guys never had an open conversation about like that's why we don't want you hanging out with her.
No, they told us that they want us to spread our wings and branch out and be friends with different people. And I looked at them and I don't know if you remember my roommates. I forget their names now. They were both like brunettes, very, very pale white. They were both from Canada. Um, they were besties. They didn't talk to anybody else. They were literally like hip to hip. They walked together, they ate together, they did everything together. They never spoke to another person. And I said, what's the difference in me and Ashley being best friends with um with you or my two roommates? And they were like, well, we just want you to branch out and be friends with other people. And I said, we are friends with other people. I said, well, I was like, we just went to this, so and so's apartment to watch the brand new pilot of Grey's Anatomy. We
Yeah.
go to here and we were just playing, these card games that everyone's making up. We were just over here doing this. We were just over here doing that. What are you talking about? I was so confused. I would go to sleep crying,
Because they
thinking
would
that
tell
I was
me
bullied.
that I was hanging out with you all the time. We hung out when we were like at church
Right.
in there. But when we were normally at our apartments, I would go over your apartment and I remember we would watch, I'm pretty sure we watched Grays every week. But I
Yeah.
think that was really the only time I was at your apartment because I didn't really feel very comfortable at your apartment.
Yeah.
So,
I
like,
didn't feel comfortable in my apartment either. So girl. Trust.
so like I wasn't ever there. And that's
Mm-hmm.
from my end, that's what threw me off about it was because like, yeah, I was like, yeah, I talk to these girls, they're my friends. But there are a lot of other people, and I know exactly who you're talking about, who were together all the time.
And they
And
never had a
why
problem
is
with
this
it.
different?
Yeah.
Right.
It was, I just always felt like it was very much, um, they just didn't, downright did not like me. I don't know if it was because of Ashley, because she was blatantly a lesbian. Now we're looking blatantly. Um, but yeah, but did you know me and her were actually we actually ended up being in a relationship. We both got kicked out. So I'll tell you the story how we got kicked out. So we were secretly texting. Now we weren't allowed to text at all. And what made us start texting was um the the death of uh what are the two girls
Katie?
that, yeah, Katie.
Yeah.
Um that was
No
traumatic.
way.
That was traumatic. But we were not speaking up until then. We were not talking, and I felt very uncomfortable. And I wanted to go home. Didn't really
Mm,
talk to many people. And I remember going up and asking a teacher, I forget who it was, and I was like, hey, listen, like we were both very close with Katie. We hung out all the time. Is it okay if I just kind of go up to Ashley and just kind of console her and just like give her a hug? Like, she's literally in the corner by herself crying and
yeah.
no one's near her. They were like, yes, but don't linger. I said, okay, fair enough. So I go over, whatever. Um, I just remember hugging, and then she whispered in my ear, text me.
Yeah.
And then I walked away. And then I sat there, and of course, I texted her, and we changed each other's names in our phones. Right. Like, I felt like this was like so secret, like so dumb.
All right.
I was hanging out with, do you remember Emily Snow?
Mm-hmm.
So I was hanging out with Emily the one night. She was over my apartment. We were just hanging out, chit chatting, and I went to the bathroom. Ashley texted me, and she saw the number in my. She went through my phone. Like she went through my phone, answered, and this was like a flip phone. So like you had to physically go through someone's flip phone to see it. And she opened it up, and she's like, "Is this Ashley's number?" And I was like, "Oh, maybe."
Bro.
She immediately called the director, and we were
Bro.
kicked out. We had 24 hours to leave. Shit you not. Immediately called the director. Snitched on us. She sung like a fucking canary. And we were within 24 hours, we had to leave the premises. Both of us, both me and Ashley. That was it. We were done. And we had what, like 6 weeks left of school?
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Couldn't even graduate. Yep. And so then I was like, I don't know how to tell my family. I told my family, it is what it is. They didn't really care. And then I went to live with Ashley in Indiana. And then, you know, things went how they were, and we ended up being in a relationship together. I moved home. I finally
How
moved
long
back.
did you guys date for?
I moved back to Philly. I was 19. We dated until I turned 21. And
Oh
it was at
wow.
that point that she proposed to me. And I looked, and I said yes, but I was like, am I really a lesbian? I was a virgin.
This is so wild.
I was a virgin, dude. I had never been with anybody else in my life. I mean, I've had like, younger boyfriends at like
Yeah,
16,
yeah.
17, but they were never like serious. She was my first actual like serious in love relationship. And it wasn't until, she proposed when we were 20 that I was like, wow, am I really about to do this?
Yeah.
So then things kind of got crazy. We would fight all the time, whatever. She ended up going back to Indiana. We like, broke up. I remember I ended up getting into a relationship with this guy that I worked with. And on my 21st birthday, which is December 26th, I lost my virginity to him for my birthday. And I knew in that moment I was not a lesbian. And I've never been with a woman since.
I think too, I definitely think you guys were trauma bonded.
Oh, for sure.
And I definitely think that there's also you can be attracted to people,
Yes.
and that doesn't mean you're gonna be attracted to every woman out there,
Right.
but I
And
definitely think you can have an attraction to like somebody
oh,
and not be
1,000%.
technically a lesbian. Yeah.
1,000%. Yeah, I have definitely noticed that for sure. And again, Lord knows, my my relationships with men have not been the best. I've tried to be a lesbian again. I have tried going down that hill. So I like
Girl,
to
because these
say,
men's.
right,
Ooh.
I've tried and I've prayed. And I'm like, God, for me, it's like, listen, don't knock it until you try it. And I tried dating. I tried going on Tinder, dating women, trans, anything. You know what I mean? Just to find like a
Yeah,
love, just
yeah,
to find a connection.
yeah.
And I ended up hooking up with like another girl. And I was just like, her name is Samantha, and I have the most respect for this woman. She's actually engaged now. She just got engaged. But we have such a deep connection to each other, and we're still connected on like social media and
Yeah.
stuff. But when we were like attempting to like hook up and stuff, I'm like, yeah, I can't do this. I can't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm trying so hard. And she's like, dude, I never thought you were a lesbian. I don't know why you were trying so hard. And I'm like, because these men, girl, these men got me crazy. But, um, but yeah, so that was the story of me and Ashley. And I
Wow.
mean, I think Ashley's engaged now. We would stay connected here and there. I think we're friends on like Facebook or something.
Yeah,
But yeah, so that was how the things went with me and
yeah.
Ashley.
And just to like rewind a little bit, so when Amanda was talking about the death of one of our classmates,
Mm, Katie.
my roommate
And Wendy.
Katie, and yeah, my roommate Katie, and then another girl at the school who lived out in town with the family, I believe.
Mhm.
Um, they were in a car accident, and both of them died, and that was just
So traumatic.
uh, so traumatic, and it was handled so bad.
I
And not handled. I felt like it was just we had to just pretend like nothing happened, and
Yeah.
that really fucked me up.
Um I will never, and this is something that I resonate with. When someone tells you that somebody that you are close to dies, it is such a wild thing. So when they told me and my family that my mom had died. So my mom actually died in my arms. And I felt it. I felt her soul leave
Yeah.
her body. It was the wildest thing. She ended up having a heart attack, died in my arms. But we still, called 911. The paramedics came, got her. We were rushing to the hospital. They brought me and my family into a little room, and the doctors came in. They said, I apologize, but there's nothing more that we can do. The screams, the wails, the tears, the cries, the everything that I heard in that room will never leave my brain. I can still hear it today. And it's the exact same thing, just tenfold of how they told us when Katie and Wendy died.
Oof.
It was
I
the same noise, the same sound. It's a wailing. Like,
I've never heard that sound come out of my body before.
right. And it is so traumatizing. And I will never in my life forget that sound. It's it is the saddest thing that I've ever
Ooh.
experienced. It is the
I
chills that go down my spine. I don't ever wish that on anybody. And anyone who has experienced it knows that sound.
Yeah.
It was
I
very
just remember
traumatizing. Ooh, sorry, I
the
just got
night
teary eyed.
before. Yeah.
Ooh.
The night before, Katie
Oh,
wanted to go spend she wanted to spend a night at Wendy's house.
yeah. She asked me to go.
And I told her no.
Yeah, same,
I told her no.
same.
I was like, Katie's mother, okay, it's fine. And, my roommates were like, no, blah, blah, blah. It was a school night. And I was like,
Mhm.
no, like, and I just said, no, I was like,
Yeah.
I don't think
We
you
were
should
all
go.
supposed to go.
I had a weird vibe.
Yeah.
And I definitely didn't want to go because I wasn't ever trying to go to sleep over nobody's house.
Right.
And in the morning, she didn't show up. And I
Yeah.
was calling her the whole time we were at prayer. The first thing we did in the morning, we had to get to the church and we prayed for an hour.
Mhm.
And the whole time we were there, I was texting her and I was
Mhm.
calling her and I was walking outside. And like people were trying to gaslight me and say, oh my God, she's just playing hooky. And
No,
and I
that
was
was
like,
not
no.
Katie.
And
That was
I said,
not Katie.
I was like, she would have called me. She would have told me if she wasn't coming. Maybe she wouldn't have told y'all hoes. But
Right.
like she would have said something to me, and as the afternoon passed,
And
I
he was
knew
one to never miss prayer.
I knew she was gone. I knew. I literally started cooking, and when I tell you I probably made 500 pancakes.
Oh
But
God. Oh,
I
you
was
so you
calling
felt it. You knew it.
I was calling every single staff member and nobody would answer my phone call.
So you were going through the
And
motions.
so I started watching the news, and I remember I had this very terrible laptop, guys.
Oh God.
And I was looking up accidents, trying
Oh
to
my
find
God,
out
Amber.
what happened. And when they called us to the school, I
You knew.
fucking knew. And I wasn't going. And I was standing in my house and I was screaming, cooking my pancakes, okay? And I
Oh,
said, I'm not going. I'm not
oh
going.
my
They're not
God.
telling me nothing. Like, y'all can come find me. And they had to drag me. I don't know if you remember this. I had a broken leg, so I had a
Yeah,
cast.
I do
I
remember.
had a cast on my leg. They had to drag me to the church. We get there, they put us in the room, and I knew, and I was just like, why would you tell us like this?
Yeah, they just stood
Especially
up
the
and they
people
were
that
just
lived in her
like,
house.
yeah, they were just like, so there was an accident this morning and Katie and Wendy died. That was how they told us. They brought us all together. We were in a room, all sitting down. They said there was an accident this morning and Katie and Wendy died. That was it. That was it. And it was just, oh God, it was tears, it was crying, it was emotional. It was the saddest thing, the most traumatic thing. And then dealing with my mom dying and then that, I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. This is not okay. Not
Yeah.
okay in the slightest. And then it was even after them telling I couldn't be friends with you, I couldn't be friends with Ashley. So like we had like nobody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like dealing with this at such a young age, I mean, everybody goes through death. Everybody goes through something traumatic, and it happens. It's life, but man, they handled it so shitty. Like,
They wouldn't let me be there when they cleaned out her room.
are you serious? You were her roommate.
Yeah, and then they had the nerve to call me to ask me about stuff. Girl,
Oh no, I wish I would have known that.
the
I
amount
wish you would have
like
told me that. I would have been there for you. No, I would have
and
been. That Philly
I
girl
love
would
her
have came out for
family.
me.
I
Yeah.
love her family. I love her parents. They have been there for me through the whole rest of my life. I still keep in contact with them.
Do you
They're
really?
so amazing.
Oh my
And
God,
like
that's awesome.
me and Katie would sing for hours and we would record ourselves singing. All so they have tons of tapes of us singing together
Oh my
and everything
God.
like that. And I'm glad that I have that, and have that with
Yeah,
them and everything. But yeah,
that
they
is
handled that real
amazing.
bad.
Um, I remember one conversation I had with Katie, and I will never forget it. And we were in church in the morning because we had to be there, what, like 8 o'clock for like
Ugh,
eight to
too
nine or
early.
something. Yeah, too damn early. And I remember I was, doing my devotionals. I would like listen to music, read the Bible, do a devotional, quick prayer, nothing crazy. And I remember getting up this one day and I saw Katie sitting in the very top, like the very tippy top, like nosebleed section. And she was
Yeah, because she didn't
color,
want nobody bothering
yeah,
her.
she was coloring in a coloring book. And and I thought that was the weirdest thing. But I went over to her and I was like, hey girl, what you doing? And she was like, oh, I'm just coloring with the angels. I'm like, what? She's like, I'm coloring with the angels.
Yep, that's her.
Like, why do you say that? And she's like, Philly, because everyone called me Philly. She was like, Philly, I just don't belong in this world. And I truly know that I belong with God and with his angels and with all the angel children. And sometimes when I pray, I color with them because I know I'll be with them soon. And I was like, don't say that, Katie. I was like, so she was very adamant about being a missionary to India. She wanted to go so bad. And she would tell me about it all the time. And I was like, don't say that, Katie. Like you're gonna, get older, and when you get out of here, I know you're gonna be a missionary to India, and you're gonna tell all the little Indian kids about, God, and you are gonna be such an amazing woman of God when you get older. And she's like, yeah, I don't know if that'll ever happen for me. But, I
She
just,
was the first person that I met that openly had that depression, like diagnosed
mm-hmm,
depression as
mm-hmm.
a Christian. And
Yeah,
that might sound a little weird, but like, everybody was pray the depression away.
yeah,
But,
because
she
that
went
works.
through a really, really dark, suicidal, depressed time in her life. And,
Did she
she went to
really?
therapy. Yeah. And
Wow, I had no idea.
she battled with depression a lot, and she did not want to be
Wow.
here.
Wow.
And
I
yeah,
never knew that about her.
she
I thought she was the happiest girl that I have
nah,
ever
dude, she was
met.
dark. I loved her.
Wow,
She
man.
was very bubbly on the
Yeah.
outside. She 100% was, but yeah, she was dark and gloomy.
Wow.
And that's kind of what really bonded us
Yeah.
together, was that depression
Mhm.
and not knowing what it was, because I grew up in a church, and we didn't do therapy or medicine like that. You prayed, you read your Bible, and if something
Yeah.
was wrong, then you had unchecked sin in your life, so that's why
Yeah.
you're sad.
Yeah.
And her family went through that whole process with her, and was very adamant about getting her help. And I remember talking to her mom about it and stuff, and how scary it was for them on
Wow.
the
I
outside,
had
like having
no
a depressed
idea.
daughter all of a sudden, who is trying to, like, commit suicide and stuff, especially someone who's in a church and is seemingly doing everything right. And she was one of the best people I've ever met in my entire life.
Yeah,
you know
I will
um
never, ever in my wildest dreams ever forget about Katie. Um, just her smile was so bright. It almost like she was like a magnet, like you were just so attracted to her and her personality. And not in like a sexual way, but I was so attracted to her. And I enjoyed being around her. She made me feel something inside.
yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. Um, like you said, she was very, very bubbly. Um, yeah, and I think I was dealing with my own depression, again, dealing with my mom's death, and
Right.
and just being around her and just hearing her talk about the things that she wanted to do in life just kind of made my day a little bit brighter and a little bit
Yeah.
better being around her. Yeah, I will never forget her ever in my life.
Yeah, when I was stationed in the last time I saw our family, I was stationed in Virginia, and they
Okay.
were coming down there, and they
Hmm.
came to see me and
Oh
stuff.
my
And we had seen each
gosh.
other different times. I know they met Caesar, my little dog.
Hmm.
I don't know
Did they
I
meet your
don't think I
brother?
had Jacqueline yet. Yeah, they knew actually Katie loved Joseph.
Oh,
Like,
that's
loved
awesome.
him. Yeah.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I loved him too. I remember when he came to visit. He was
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh, we would always
He was
have the best time.
such an awesome person.
Yeah.
He had that
So,
personality too, that you were just like drawn to them.
yeah. Oh,
Hmm.
definitely he does. That
Yeah.
charisma.
Yes. Yes. And like it's like a charm almost. Like I almost wanted to
Right.
like be them. um, but yeah, no, that's awesome. Oh my God, I'm so glad that you still keep in touch with them. That's amazing. See, and that's also, bringing it back to masters. If there was ever a genie that was like, if you could go back and do something different, what would it be? I always think of masters, and it's like, I don't know if I would go back there or not, because it's like I've met so many amazing people, but at the same time, like, was it really a waste of my time, or did I really learn stuff from there?
Yeah.
Like
I battle that all the time. I feel like it was such a waste of time. And you're the only other person I've heard use that phrase when talking about it. And that's how I really felt for so long.
Amber,
And
they
I really learned stuff there.
yeah, they
But at
put
the
us
same time, I could have done
Amber.
without those couple years.
right. They put us in a class and told us how to be a woman. They sat us
Oh my
down and said,
gosh.
curl up with a nice book by the fireplace and do your
It
nails.
was called girls class, guys. It was called girls class.
And I
And
said,
it was as
what?
terrible as that sounds.
I said, what in the fucking white Susie Homemaker
Girl.
is this shit? I said,
Girl.
curl up by the fireplace. And I remember raising my hand. I think I said, what if you can't afford a fireplace? They dismissed
No,
me.
they were
They
talking about
dismissed
brushing your
me.
hair. Okay?
Right.
At one point it was like, "Oh, and you can like brushing your hair." I'm looking at me, looking at the
Like,
rest of them
right.
like, I don't
With our
with my
curly hair.
braids, like what am I doing? Like what?
Right. Right. Like, what? Okay, you brush your hair, bitch. Like, like, what?
Right.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I couldn't believe what they were actually saying. Um, and I never, so I heard you in the beginning when you introduced us, for the podcast, and you said something that some people may think that this is a culty college, and some people think it's a fellowship or, whatever. And do you remember Trista?
Mhm.
So I became really close with Trista. I don't know if you know that. Um, when I was like
Guys, she has a
20.
story to tell. I want her on here too
Oh, you
cuz
need her. You
I
need her
I
on
got to
here
know. Yeah.
desperately. You need her on here. She is such an amazing woman. She
She had
has
an
such
experience
a
with
story.
masters
Yep.
on her own end that
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
horrific, you
You
know?
you need it.
Yeah.
I went, me, her, and this other girl. I forget so many people's names. I have the worst memory now. I smoke too much weed. But it was me, Trista, and someone else. We went. Uh, we just like visited like a bunch of places. I remember I went to Thanksgiving with her one year
I remember
and
that.
her
I do.
family. So amazing. And then I was living in Florida when I was like 25 years old. I lived in West Palm Beach, and she was living in Orlando. And I remember I was going to Disney World with my boyfriend at the time. She messaged me and she's like, "Girl, you're going to Disney World." Because I like post on Facebook. And she's like, "I'm here. I have season passes to Universal. You're coming. I'm gonna show you all around my town." I was like, "Bet." So we go out and, we're talking, we're just like catching up. And I was like, "Are you friends with anybody else from Masters? Do you still talk to anyone?" She was like, "Girl, that fucking culty college." And I was like, "Cult? What what do you cult?" I was like, "That's not cult. What are you talking about?" She's like, "Girl, it was closed down because it was a culty college." And I'm like, "Trista, that wasn't a culty college. That was just like a Christian fellowship program." She's like, "Amanda, honey."
Girl, are you still a hostage? Blink
Yeah,
yes or no.
yeah. She's like, "It was a cult. They told you how to dress. They told you how to act. You couldn't have a boyfriend. You couldn't have a job. You couldn't have a car. You were dedicating your life
They
to
told you when to
a
sleep.
God." They told you when to sleep.
They
They
told you
told you
when
when
to
to get
eat.
up. Oh, and do you remember this? This just came to my mind like 10 seconds ago that I was thinking about it. But when we were, if you didn't clean a certain part of your apartment and you got like an F, you had to
Oh,
get up at 5 o'clock
yeah.
in the morning and do a boot camp. I ended up in the hospital for one of those. I was so sick because I had to go to a boot camp. I ended up in the hospital. I ended up getting asthma because it was like February and we had to do like 5 a.m. boot camp type army shit. And I'm like, what the? I was like, Lord, I know you do not want this for your child.
Oh,
Like, what is going on?
take
And
this burden from me, Father.
right. Like, I'm sorry for my sins. I do know what I do. I'm sorry. And, Trista was like, "Honey, baby
Yeah.
girl, that was a cult." And I was like, "No shit." And it was kind of like, oh, one of those like wow moments
Yeah.
where I was like, wow, I went to a culty college. Like,
Mhm.
no fucking shit, man. And it wasn't until her that she said those words to me. And then I remember seeing some girl on TikTok and she was like, tell me about a time you survived a cult college. I'll go first. And I was like, who goes to cult colleges? And then like cut to now and I'm like,
No, what?
holy shit, it was me. Like, oh my God. I feel like I could get famous off of TikTok by just like telling
You're
people
like,
my
it was
story of
me.
like
I
culty
was in a
colleges.
cult, guys.
It was me. I'm her. I am she. We are they. Like, yeah, I just never would have put the word cult
I mean,
and
so
master's
like when you
commissions
went there,
together.
your first year, you
Hmm.
weren't able to listen to secular music, which means you
Nope.
only could listen to music that was made by a Christian artist. You couldn't watch any
Hmm.
movies that were above PG-13,
Yep.
um, and you couldn't talk to anyone of the opposite sex.
Yep.
Even if they were just a friend, you weren't
Yeah.
supposed to have any connections with them. They really wanted me to cut off like my whole family because they just felt like they weren't good enough for whatever reason.
What?
And there was other people I've recently found out in the past couple years that kind of went through the same thing. They were told that their parents weren't good enough or their siblings or whatever, and you're kind
No.
of forced to cut them off. And then when you're kicked out, so we both got kicked out, and you nobody's allowed to talk to you. You're shunned. As Amanda
Yeah.
said, you literally have 24 hours to leave. My whole family lived in the Middle East, okay? It was February. There is no heat in my house. There was no running water because we winterized our house.
Hmm.
I had to drive 13 hours to get home. I
Yep.
was broke because we weren't allowed to
Yep.
have a job. So I had to figure out how I was driving
Oh,
13 hours,
we got $22 a week, weekly
packing my
allowance.
car, and then nobody's allowed to talk. That's when I didn't know that going into it, but that my first kind of red flag was like, that's not right.
No,
Like,
not at all.
you
That's
can't, they
not
wouldn't
like,
let
and
our roommates come say goodbye to us and
nope.
come talk
Couldn't
to
talk
you.
to anybody. Yeah, I was completely and utterly shunned. They
They
told
told
my
Chelsea not
roommates,
to come see me.
yeah, they told my roommates not to come.
She
They
came
said stay
anyway.
out of. They said, oh, good for her. They told for everyone to stay out of our
Yep.
my apartment and out of Ashley's apartment until we left the premises.
Girl, do you know how hurt my roommates were because they thought I just left and didn't say anything to them? They thought I
Man,
did that. And the fact that they let them believe that,
yeah,
like they let
disgusting.
them believe that nobody ever stood up and said, "Hey, when they leave, like we tell them not to talk to you." They truly thought I just up and left and abandoned them.
Wow,
And I felt
wow,
so bad.
yeah,
I was like, dude, I would never do that
and
to anybody.
right, and again, now being a 36-year-old woman, and back then, I look back on it, and it's like I still have a very strong relationship with God. I don't go to church anymore, but I pray, I do my thing, I do my due diligence. I have a relationship with God. I don't want to say I'm Christian. I don't want to say I'm Catholic. I have a relationship with my God, and
Right.
that's how I am. I love witchy things and Halloween things. I've always been a very witchy person, and I
Girl, that
see
not
ghosts.
watching horror movies for that year was very hard for me.
Oh, extremely. It was the worst year of my life. We've seen some shit, girl. We've seen some shit. And, it was very hard, very difficult. But now looking back on it, it's like that. How how can you sit here and say, "Oh, we are so Christian, we are so godly," and then you kick people out on their butts
Yeah.
and with no remorse, with no help, with no nothing? It's just like, get the fuck out. You have 24 hours to get the fuck out.
Right.
That's illegal, one.
And there's
Like,
people that literally leave and they don't have anywhere to go.
nowhere to go.
And they don't care.
They don't care at all. They're just like, get out of our program. We want nothing to do with you. You're a
Yep.
disgust.
And
And
nobody
that was
talks to you
it.
ever again.
Yeah. And that was it. And
And you're almost so afraid. You're afraid to reach out to people. You're afraid to talk to
yeah,
people. And so these
yeah.
conversations that we're having right now, that like I've had with Trista, I've had with a couple other people from Masters. Callie Azell just recently did an episode of a podcast, and talked about Master's Commission,
I wanna listen to that.
and talked about it being a cult. But like all of us now are coming out of this, and this was in, when was this? 2005?
2005. Yep.
Like it was
The
so,
fall of 2005.
yeah, it
August.
was so long ago, and we're all just now coming to the place where like we can openly
Mhm.
talk about it and
Yeah.
discuss it with each other. And it's not, because after we got kicked out, one of the things that the director said to me was like, don't be one of those bitter people who just hates everything and hates God and
No.
blah 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 blah
Yeah.
blah. And so I didn't want to be that, but also
Yeah.
at the same time it was like, this isn't a good thing.
No. No.
So
No.
like, so I
Yeah.
can criticize it
Yeah.
without being bitter.
Absolutely. You know what's really
Yeah.
funny? When you asked me first to talk about it, I was nervous that you were all for Masters and I was so against it that I was like, oh
Really?
no, I hope. I was like, I pray to God. I was like, I don't think she's like that anymore. I was like, but like, I pray to God that like I don't say something negative that like offends her. Like, I don't know how, my thoughts
Girl,
and
I wasn't
feelings
even all
on
in it
Masters.
when I was in it.
Right. We were both very rebel. We were very Northeast Philly, Jersey, that we just like didn't give a shit about anything. We did what we were gonna do, and that was that. But yeah, I was like, oh God, I hope I'm not like too negative. But now that I'm so glad that you told me that other people feel this way. It makes
It
my
is very,
validation
yeah, it
real.
is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I tell people, like I even tell like my boyfriend now, about my culty college, and he kind of like laughs at it, and I tell other people, and they just kind of like chuckle, and I'm just like, you don't understand like what I went through. Like not for nothing, like yeah, it was a cult, but I almost feel like it was like a dream. Like we saw some
Yes.
shit. Do you remember? And again, going back to Wendy. Do you remember when Wendy attacked you in church and she
No.
claimed, stop it, because I'm gonna feel like a
No.
crazy person right now.
No. Girl,
I'm gonna
I
feel like
have
a crazy
literally, I
person.
blacked out so much
Okay.
of the stuff. Like,
Okay. So we were
did she
having
scratch me?
listen, we were having like do you remember those like intense like warfare prayers? So
Yes.
for any of your audience that doesn't know like what a warfare prayer is, it's just like a heavily prayer thing where people are like speaking in tongues, we're singing, we're screaming, we're yelling. It's if you haven't experienced it, it's
People
very
are
weird. It's
falling
very
out.
yeah, it's like it's hard to explain. But it was like a warfare prayer, and you didn't have to go. You could go if you wanted to. It was just like at a Wednesday
I
night
feel
at
like
like
if you did
9.
not go, you were judged.
For
So,
sure. But anyway, I went to one. We were all there, all of us. And I remember Wendy going to the bathroom. She came back and she had black eyes. She had black eyes and she fucking attacked you, dude. She came across a chair and choked you out. And it took like 5 of us to get her off of you. She scratched you up. You were completely oblivious. I don't know what was like protecting you, but something was. And then everyone brought her to a corner and prayed for her. And this like black spirit like thing came
I
out of
remember
her.
she scratched me,
Yeah.
and because I definitely wasn't paying attention to like
No,
her or what was
you
going
were
on, and
in your
I
own
remember being
thing.
scratched
Yeah. You were in
and
your
being
own thing.
pissed.
Yes.
Now I'm mad.
Yeah. But it
Yeah,
was,
because I know what. Okay, so I definitely barely remember that, but I do remember I wasn't too fond of her.
oh no. R.I.P.
But
Wendy.
like, yeah. Oh my
But
god.
um me and her were really cool friends too. Like we were really close. And I just remember because I
Dude, I
had
had a
passed
scar
her.
on my face for a really long time after that.
Yeah, I had
Okay.
passed her on the like going to the bathroom, and I looked at her, and she would always be like, "Hey, girl, what's up?" You know what I mean? And she didn't say anything to me. And I looked at her, and her eyes were glazed over, and they were black, dude. And I was like, Wendy. She looked at me, and if fucking looks could kill, man. I've never been more terrified in my life than I was of her. And she was such a simple person. She was so
Yeah.
simple, so
Yeah.
little, so frail. And I was scared. And I was like,
There's so many people going through stuff, and people who were like genuinely had mental health issues
yeah,
that needed help. like that really
1000%.
genuinely just needed support and love and like actual psychiatric help.
We
There's a lot of people who went there to get fixed
Yeah,
and that
and thought that
they
that
weren't
was
equipped.
and thought that that's what was going to happen, that God
Mhm.
and prayer was going to help them, was going to heal
Yeah.
them, and they ended up just going to girls and guys classes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's
Cuz there's
not
a
what they
lot of
needed.
people
We
that
needed doctors, we needed therapists.
yeah.
They, after, Katie and Wendy's death, they needed a therapist to
Yeah.
talk to us, and we just had to pretend like, oh, it just happens willy-nilly, like it is what it is.
Yeah, and we were just
No.
supposed to pick up and like
And
go
continue
back to
on.
school
Yeah.
and act like everything was normal and it just wasn't, you know.
Yeah, at all. But like, Masters is my Roman Empire. I think about it all the time. I think about everybody that I met. I think about you. I think about Chelsea, Callie, Trista, Maddie. So many people I think about now, and that I'm very good friends with on social media, and I follow them and they follow me back, and we've watched each other grow on social media into the men and women that we are today with children. Like, you have a beautiful daughter now, you have your own podcast. Trista lives in California doing her own thing, and Chelsea's married with her son, and it's so wild that we all experienced this crazy thing. I think it should be like on TV. I really
Well, when I
do.
was watching, did you watch the Hillsongs documentary?
No, I want to, but I truly love Hillsong, that I don't want it to like be sad and like crumble my childhood. Is it bad?
It's gonna very much take you back to this. It
Oh god.
when I watched it,
Is it
I was
triggering?
back in Masters because
Oh
it
god.
was so much the same. We used so much of their formula and their
Yeah.
music
Mhm.
and those things, and so yeah, it was very like, oh wow, and it's going to bring things back to your memory. And the thing about it is, some of the things that make things a cult is whenever you start depriving people of sleep and you start overworking people and you're depriving them of eating, of
Mhm.
food, you're depriving them of healthy food, you're not allowing them to work so they don't have their own money, they can't be self-sufficient.
Mhm.
All of those things then can lead to almost like a brain fog to where you
Yeah.
don't remember some of the things that happened. You don't, you forget parts. Totally forgot I was completely attacked in like a crazy prayer session, you know,
I will
and
never
all of these
forget that, just
things.
because I physically watched you, and even still today, I'm like, did that even happen? Did that happen?
And you
Or was
feel
I just,
that
and
way.
am I just crazy? Like, was that just like a dream? Was Masters an entire dream to
Do
me?
you remember when we spent were you there when we spent 24 hours learning the cup song? I don't know if you were there.
Are
That was in
you
my first year.
joking? I literally would fight people because I wanted to be the best. And
I just remembered that.
the guy that taught us the cup thing, it got to the point where there was 30 of us in my like team or whatever. I don't think you were a part of my team,
No, we were
but
in this big warehouse.
yeah, we were
And
in a
so if you
huge
guys
warehouse.
remember Anna Kendrick,
The cup girl.
and we had to learn that backwards and forwards. I don't know what the point of it was. We were
Mm-hmm.
locked in that building and we did not have food. Okay. And I
No, we
swear
didn't
I
have
was
food,
thirsty.
water.
We were there for like 12 hours or
Yeah.
more.
And
Like it was all night.
we were not allowed to leave until every single person got it completely right for like a full
Mhm.
round, to
And
where
then we
like
had to go.
one
So then
person
you
was
had to
left.
move the cups around in a circle and
And
everybody had to get it right or you had
yeah,
to start over.
if one person messed up, you had to start over, and we couldn't
People
leave.
were breaking down, people were crying. I
Hmm.
was trying to actively leave. Like
You're like, I'm done with this. No, girl,
I was
me.
like, somebody
So
has to let me out of here.
the guy that taught, what was the guy? Do you remember the guy's name that like actually taught us that?
Mm-mm.
Okay, but you know who I'm talking about. He had like glasses. He was like the photographer for like a lot of things that we did.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So he was on our team, and he was the one that taught us that. So he was like, like, oh, Mr. Big Shot, like I can do like whatever. And I remember I fought everybody to make sure that I was the last one to be the anchor. So that way, for the final time that it came down to, it was just me and him versus. And if I beat him, we got to leave. We didn't leave until 3 o'clock in the morning. But I
I
finally beat him.
probably would have cried.
I finally beat him. We left at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, "Put me as the anchor. I'll do it. I'm gonna beat him. I'm not leaving here until I do it." And I got like enraged. I will never forget that. And then I remember coming home like after I got kicked out. I would like show my friends like the cup stuff and like
The
because there was
cups
like
up.
different beats too. Like there was different stuff that we would do.
Yeah.
It wasn't
I
just
mean,
like the Anna
it was.
Kendrick. It was like the
Yeah.
normal Anna Kendrick one, like the
Yeah.
it was that, but then there was like other beats, and like I remember
Well,
one of
I
the
got
beats.
put in like this little like elite group. So there
Mm-hmm.
was like four of us
Oh,
and
mine was like 30 people.
we had to learn the like extreme version of it.
Yeah, we learned that one too.
Girl,
Um,
it was a mess. I
it
because I
was
remember
it was the
I
beat
think
from
Paula was in that
Drumline,
group.
dude. Do you remember? It was the beat from Drumline, the movie Drumline.
Oh my God, it was.
It
That
was
was
the
the
beat
hard one.
from Drumline, and that was the hard one. And I was like, and I remember coming home after I got kicked out. I remember coming home and teaching all my church friends because I was still in church, and then I was like 18, 19. And I remember going to church youth group, and I was like, "You want to learn something real cool?" I thought I was so cool, dude. And I was like, I got this like really cool cup game. And I taught everyone like their own parts. And we did it. And then we did it for like my whole church, and they thought we were like the coolest fucking thing. So dumb.
Oh
What
my
was the
gosh.
point of that? Like,
That is what I need to know. I need
how is that
somebody
getting
to
me
tell
closer to
me.
God?
Yeah, I need to know what the point. It can be ridiculous, but I really would like to know what the point of that
It,
was
I
because we were
almost,
there for a day.
I almost like you ever seen the movie Holes with Shia LaBeouf, the movie Hole, the Disney movie Holes
Yeah.
with Shia LaBeouf. You know how they're like, why are we digging holes? And it's like, because it builds character. It's like, why are we
Yeah.
doing this to build character? Like, I feel like the entire time we were at Masters was like, it's building character. What fucking character are we building? Like a psychotic, like weirdo? Like, what is happening?
So I think the last thing that I kind of want to touch on is so how did you personally recover from this? Like what were the steps that you took to kind of heal from that whole experience?
Honestly, I'm not. Um, I
Oh,
still battle with a lot of stuff. I've been in therapy for years. I am a very gullible person. I believe a lot of stuff. If I see a TikTok video that says, if you eat this, you will lose 20 pounds in 2 days, I will go out and buy it. I am that girl. Um, but I was also very, very sheltered. You got to understand from the time I was in kindergarten, I was in a Christian school to the time I was in 10th grade. Then I went to a public school. I was shoved into church. Then I went to a Christian college. Then my mom passed away. Then I was introduced to the world we know now. We went through a pandemic. We went through all these different things, what the government tells us to do. And, with work and just everything else, I've been very sheltered. Um, and I'm not healed. There are, again, it is my Roman Empire where I think about it constantly. Um, I talk to people about it and they look at me like I have 10 heads.
mm-hmm.
They look at me like I'm a freak, like I'm a weirdo, and like I'm lying about these things. They're like, oh, she's that like weird church girl. I'm not healed from it. Um, I never in a million years would have put Master's Commission and the word cult together until Trista told me that I was in a cult.
Yeah.
Um, and I still to this day cannot believe that I was in a fucking cult. You think of cult like, in the middle of the fields doing shrooms and wearing white robes and following
Okay,
Jared Leto.
besides the shrooms, we were in the middle of the field, definitely with the robe
For
on.
sure. But like you think of like Jared Leto and his, little band of people wearing white robes and doing shrooms. That's what you think of a cult. You never would have thought of what we were doing as culty. And I am still not healed. It's very triggering. It's very traumatizing. Um, I'm still seeking out a therapist who can understand and not
Your like
judge
religious
me.
trauma.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
not judge me, because that is different. It's a different trauma. It is a religious trauma. And um people are so like, oh, Christianity, and the world is raised on Christianity and Catholicism and blah blah blah, and the Bible says this and the Bible says that. And finding a therapist that can truly sit down and talk to me, believe
Yeah.
everything that I went through, is the
Right.
hardest thing I've ever had to endure,
I think
I
I
guess.
just unlocked a new career that I now need to become a religious trauma therapist.
Dude, if you were a religious trauma therapist, the amount of money that you would make is like astronomical. I feel like there are so many other people out there
Bro,
that's
I could
not
totally
just.
do it. I would just got to get my counseling license, which
Can
I've
you be
just
my therapist?
honestly, well, because
Because,
I have my master's in social work.
oh
So
shit, look at
I
you.
just need to be
Yeah,
licensed, but I can work in a counseling setting, not necessarily a clinical
right,
counseling therapist
right.
setting, but yeah,
That
and
would
I've
be
actually
amazing.
I've had other friends who weren't in masters. I have a really great friend named Dan who grew up very similar to the way that we did,
Hmm.
and we've talked about this before, and I think that a religious trauma therapist would be amazing for so many people,
So
because there's
many.
other people I've talked to from masters recently. I actually have some other people lined up
Hmm.
that I really want to interview, because I want this to be part of a whole series that
Yeah,
I do. But so many of them, Amanda, have not healed either. They're in the same place. And I
yeah,
mean, they're bursting out in tears as
yeah.
soon as we're talking about it, because it's that fresh, it's that on the surface still.
Yeah, it's like the second you ask me about certain things, it's like I've been holding back tears this entire time. I've also been
Oh,
drinking
me too.
wine,
Me too. I've
but
been over here weeping.
yeah, but it's like I'm flooded with memories that I didn't even remember that I remembered.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's so wild and so bizarre. And I really do think that there needs to be more religious therapists out there. I work with a kid. I'm a manager in retail now, and I work with he's gay. This kid, he's such an amazing soul, such an amazing spirit, and his parents are pastors. And he bought some pants the other day, girl pants they weren't like skinny jeans. They were just like normal, like mom jeans. They looked normal on him, and they made him return it because they were women's jeans, and they were like, no, you're a man.
Oh,
And you know what I mean? And he's so
yeah.
discouraged, and just like stuff like that
Yeah.
that he's going through that he doesn't know how to deal with. He's 18 years old. He's trying to figure out his life between being in a religious family and being gay and being the one that's out his family, but has to pretend that he's not out for his for his congregation, especially being parents, his parents being pastors.
Yeah.
There 1000% needs to be advocates for children and for adults like me and you
Mhm.
that can help us heal and get through this craziness that we went through,
Right.
for sure. I think that would be
And
amazing
I
for
hope
you.
that more people start coming forward
Yeah,
too, and wanting to talk about their different experiences,
yeah. Dude, I
but
could talk for
I mean, there's
hours.
so many angles.
Yeah, I could talk for hours on Masters
Right.
and just our experiences and just our day to day and our living situations and what we went through and what we saw and how we all endured the same thing, but we all have a completely different story.
Mhm.
So I definitely think there needs to be so many more therapists out there for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining
Absolutely.
me on here. I
Yeah.
definitely be hitting you back up for another part of this.
Yes, part
Um,
two.
Absolutely, because I know that there's still people out there working through of like the what do we do now? Like how do
Yeah,
we
where
move
do we
on from
go?
here?
Where do
Right.
we go
And
from here?
exactly.
And
And I would love to talk to you about that, because for me
yeah.
it took me years
Are
to
you healed?
to
Has anyone asked
recover
you
from
that?
it.
Are you healed? Are you recovering
No,
from it?
I don't know. Nobody's ever asked me that before. You
Well,
know,
how do
I
you feel?
think that I have. the best friend in the world, Chelsea.
Yeah.
And we've been able to have these conversations for a long time. And I think
Mhm.
that has really helped with
Okay.
both of us
Mhm.
talking about it and talking through it.
Yeah.
And her not being defensive or feeling like I was bitter because I got kicked out, you know what I mean, or
Yeah.
anything like that. And we've been able to have those conversations. But when we were just sitting here talking about Katie, I couldn't even breathe. So
Yeah.
like, so
Yeah.
there's still so much pain and hurt
Mhm.
and things. And I always was a confident girly.
Yeah.
And during those years that I was there, my self-esteem was negative,
Yeah.
and it took me years to build my self-esteem back up
Right.
and believe in myself and believe
Yeah.
that like I could make a decision, that I could be right,
Mhm.
um that I wasn't the devil, that I wasn't evil,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
that I wasn't somehow like cursed. I
Yeah.
truly, right now I suffer from chronic illness, and I had two surgeries while I was in masters, and
Mhm.
I felt
I
so.
remember you had that like cyst.
Oh, my tailbone,
Yeah,
yes.
it's on your tailbone. Oh, you poor thing.
Oh,
I remember that. Oh my god.
girl, that thing was so terrible. But like,
I know
they
you were
made
so much
me
pain.
they would tell me I had unchecked sin in my life, and that's why I was sick,
Shut the.
because there was
You know
something
what?
not right inside of me. I wasn't right with God, and that's why God was punishing me with being sick. Yeah,
Wow.
I still have those like fleeting thoughts in my head, of like,
Stop it.
and it's hard to kind of get that out. So I guess on that
Yeah.
end, I would say that I'm not healed, because I
Yeah.
still really want to be able to, get
Yeah.
to the other side, and it takes a really long time.
Yeah. No, for sure. And like, and again, being an advocate on my side for, the LGBTQ,
Mhm.
as much as I am, I battle with that where it's like I was kicked out for being friends with a lesbian. And I battle with, being brainwashed as,
Yeah.
oh, you're
Yeah.
going straight to hell because you're friends with these certain people and they're going straight to hell because of the way that they choose to live their life. And I have to physically talk to myself and be like, shut the fuck up. That's dumb. You sound moronic. These are everyday people just like you and me, and they choose to live their life the way that they do. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. And I will constantly, no matter what my brain tells me, I will always be an advocate for the LGBTQ plus. And
Yeah.
I don't care who tries to stop me. I will do my best to stop them.
Right.
And
Right.
I battle with that all the time.
Yeah.
And it's
I mean, like, my most of my friends got kicked out for being gay. All right.
right.
Oh my gosh! Like,
Oh
we
God.
were about to go on our missions trip to Morocco, and my boy, bless his little
Who?
gay heart,
Do I
Logan,
know
he
him?
got kicked out. Were you? I don't know if you were. I don't think you were there.
Was he a first year or second year?
Was he? I don't remember. I think he was
Oh,
a
okay.
first year.
So I
Yeah.
probably don't know. Yeah.
But yeah, he got kicked
He
out,
got kicked out for being
and
gay.
yeah.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Man, they spotted him, huh? They were quick.
Man, from a
They
from a
spotted
mile
him.
away. But
Oh God.
one thing that I was talking to someone about masters was, a lot of these people went there to get fixed from being gay.
Yeah.
That's why they went, because they
Yep.
truly believed that through prayer and
Mhm.
supplication and Bible reading, that they would be able to get delivered from the spirit of homosexuality and the
Yeah.
havoc that wreaked on them, because that's you can't get rid of that.
Yeah.
So, they were trying to go there to get fixed,
Healed or fixed.
and
Yeah.
then they were treated so bad while they were there and made to feel ashamed. And then we can't even get on a conversation of the conversion therapy side to that. So we will be here for another hour.
Oh
Like,
God, yeah. Like when people ask me about it or when I talk about it, I'm like, I could literally talk to you for hours and hours and hours. I could have an entire segment
right.
on TikTok, 60 seconds on TikTok, and become famous on everything we all endured on it.
Right. And I
That's
think
how
about
crazy
that
it
too.
was.
And I'm like, I should start doing little like
You should do little like snippets on TikTok, and
yeah.
it'll get people to, even more people to join in. And there's so many more people that have been to culty places.
Well, there's
And
other masters commissions out there as well.
oh,
And
for sure. My friend Christian went to the Florida one and was telling me all about it and how it was super culty.
but
So yeah, there's so many more people out there that you could have on your
yeah.
podcast for sure.
Well, I want you guys to make sure that you go check out another podcast called Eyes Wide Open by a fellow Culty College alum. Her name is Callie Azell. The first episode is called Surviving Life in a Cult, and the second is Escaping Life in a Cult. And I think those are really great to listen to and kind of give you just another perspective on this. And like I said, I want to turn this into a series, so I hope you guys please continue to tune in and follow along because I really want to kind of bring to light what this place did to a lot of people. And there was a
Hmm.
lot of different master's commissions out there in the US, and there's a lot of other people who are hurting. But, thank you so much again, Amanda, for joining us on this episode of Politics But Make It Fashion and come interview with me. I am your host, Amber
Absolutely.
Viola. You can find us on TikTok at Politics But Make It Fashion. We're on Instagram at Politics But Make It Fashion 1. And you can follow us along on Facebook at Politics But Make It Fashion. And make sure you give our YouTube a subscribe, ding that bell at Politics But Make It Fashion. And we will chat soon.